2 videos ago, we ranked the most expensive cars in the planet. Last time, we let Italy make its case, but there's a big feature missing. What about SUVs? In 2026, the luxury SUV segment isn't just competing with itself anymore. These machines are hunting supercars in performance, private jets in comfort, and each other on prestige. 10 SUVs. And the one at number 1, it doesn't just dominate 2026. It might be the most complete luxury vehicle ever built. Number 10. Maserati Grecale Trofeo. If you watched our Italian Supercars video, you already know Maserati is having a moment. The MC20 proved the brand could build a genuine performance weapon again. The Grecale Trofeo is what happens when that same energy gets channeled into something you can actually drive every day. Under the hood sits a 3.0-liter twin-turbo V6 derived from the MC20's Nettuno engine. 523 horsepower in a mid-size SUV. 0 to 100 kilometers per hour in 3.8 seconds. That's 0 to 62 miles per hour faster than a base Porsche 911. From an SUV that seats 5. Here's a detail worth knowing. Maserati tuned the Trofeo's exhaust specifically to carry the brand's signature sound into the SUV segment. Most manufacturers muffle their SUVs into silence. Maserati did the opposite. Starting around $90,000, that makes it the most accessible car on this list by a wide margin. But accessibility is exactly the point. The Grecale Trofeo is Maserati's way of saying you don't need to spend $500,000 to feel something behind the wheel. Number 9. Mercedes-AMG GLE 63S. AMG doesn't build SUVs. AMG builds weapons that happen to have a higher ride height. The GLE 63S is the clearest proof of that philosophy. A hand-built 4.0-liter twin-turbo V8 paired with a 48-volt mild hybrid. Combined output, 603 horsepower. Standstill to 100 kilometers an hour in 3.8 seconds. But here's what the spec sheet doesn't capture. This is one of the last bi-turbo V8 AMGs before the electrified era takes over completely. That engine note, that throttle response, that mechanical directness, it has an expiration date. Inside, the AMG touch is separated from any standard Mercedes. Flat-bottom steering wheel, sport seats that hold you through corners, and a drive mode selector that transforms the car's personality in a single click. Around $120,000. For a hand-built V8 from AMG's performance division, that's a price point with an expiration date of its own. Number 8. Porsche Cayenne Turbo GT. Porsche has always believed that an SUV should be able to hold its own in a circuit. The Cayenne Turbo GT is the moment they proved it beyond any doubt. A 4.0-liter twin-turbo V8, 631 horsepower, 0 to 100 kilometers an hour in 3.3 seconds. Those are supercar numbers. But the Turbo GT held the Nürburgring SUV lap record when it launched. 7 minutes, 38 seconds, around 20.8 kilometers of the most demanding tarmac on Earth. In an SUV weighing over 2,200 kilograms, nearly 4,900 pounds. The interior reflects the intent. Lightweight sport seats, Alcantara where you'd expect leather, a steering wheel borrowed from the 911 GT3. This is not the Cayenne you take to brunch. This is the one that embarrasses sports cars on Sunday morning. Around $182,000. The counter-argument that ends every debate about whether SUVs can be serious driver's machines. 3 entries in. We've covered an Italian SUV with a supercar engine, a hand-built German V8 that's approaching extinction, and a Porsche that broke a Nürburgring record. And these are at the bottom of the list. The next 7 are where things get genuinely unreasonable. Number 7. Aston Martin DBX 707. There's a particular confidence that British engineering carries. It never shouts. It never needs to. The DBX 707 is maybe the purest expression of that idea in SUV form. The name tells you the headline. 707 metric horsepower from a 4.0-liter twin-turbo V8. 0 to 100 kilometers an hour in 3.3 seconds.
Irresistible.
When it launched, it was the most powerful luxury SUV in the market. The exhaust note is deep, aggressive, and unmistakably Aston Martin, closer to a DB11 than anything you'd expect from a vehicle this size. But the thing that separates the DBX707 from everything at this price point is the build process. The interior is hand-finished at Aston Martin's facility in St. Athan, Wales. Every stitch, every surface, selected and assembled by hand. It's a fundamentally different approach than configuring options on a screen and letting a robot do the rest. Starting around $239,000. Number 6. Range Rover SV Long Wheelbase. Now I know some of you have been waiting for this one, and I get it. The Range Rover has been the default answer to the luxury SUV question for decades. The SV Long Wheelbase is why. Forget horsepower for a moment. The SV is about what happens when you close the door. The noise insulation is so thorough that the outside world disappears. Ceramic controls, sustainable leather options, and mosaic wood veneers that look like they belong in a Mayfair townhouse. The rear executive seats recline, heat, cool, and massage. There's a reason diplomats keep ordering this car. When you do want to move, a twin-turbo V8 delivers 523 horsepower. But the Range Rover has never been about acceleration. It's about how it travels. Effortless, composed, and completely isolated from whatever the road is doing underneath. Starting around $220,000, with bespoke options, it climbs well beyond. Most buyers don't check the final number. That tells you everything about who this car is for. Halfway through, and here's what's interesting. The bottom 5 of this list would have been the entire list 5 years ago. The top 5 represent something different. These aren't just luxury SUVs. They're vehicles that are redefining what the category even means. Number 5. Mercedes-Maybach GLS 600. Mercedes makes the GLE 63S for people who want to drive. They make the Maybach GLS for people who want to arrive. The distinction matters. A 4.0-liter twin-turbo V8 with mild hybrid assistance delivers 550 horsepower. But the Maybach GLS was never designed to chase lap times. It was designed so the person in the backseat forgets they're in a car. Heated, ventilated, massaging rear seats with calf rests, fold-out tray tables, a refrigerated compartment, individual entertainment screens. The rear cabin is closer to a business-class airline suite than anything on 4 wheels. And then there's the ride. Mercedes' E-Active body control suspension uses cameras to scan the road ahead and pre-adjust in real time. Passengers have described it as floating. On rough pavement, in cobblestones, on highways, the Maybach GLS simply refuses to let the outside world in. Starting around $170,000. With the two-tone paint and Maybach exclusive packages most buyers choose, the real number usually lands north of $200,000. Number 4. Bentley Bentayga Extended Wheelbase. Let's be clear about something. Bentley has been building luxury longer than most car companies have existed. The Bentayga EWB is over a century of that expertise distilled into an SUV. The extended wheelbase adds 180 millimeters of rear legroom, about 7 inches. In practice, it transforms the rear into something that rivals a Bentley Flying Spur. The airline seat specification offers 22 adjustment points, a postural system that shifts pressure during long drives, and heating that extends from your back through your feet. Bentley claims it's the most advanced seat ever fitted to an SUV. I'm not in a position to argue. A 4.0-liter twin-turbo V8 produces 542 horsepower, 0 to 100 kilometers an hour in 4.5 seconds. Not the fastest on the list, but the Bentayga was never chasing that crown. It's chasing the one that says, this is the finest place to be while moving. Starting around $230,000. The waiting list for a fully specified EWB typically runs 6 to 8 months. Bentley builds them slowly because Bentley builds them by hand. 3 cars left, and if you've been paying attention, you've noticed something. Every SUV on this list so far has been defined by one thing it does better than anything else. The final 3, they don't pick one thing, They try to do everything, and somehow they pull it off. If this is the kind of content you care about, subscribe, because what we're building here goes a lot deeper than lists. Number 3. Lamborghini Urus SE. In our Italian Supercars video, we talked about what happens when Lamborghini decides to evolve without losing its identity. The Revuelto proved it with a hybrid V12. The Urus SE does it again, with a hybrid V8 and an SUV. A 4.0-liter twin-turbo V8 paired with a plug-in electric motor. Combined, 789 horsepower, over 130 more than the original Urus. 0 to 100 kilometers per hour in 3.4 seconds. Top speed past 312 kilometers per hour, 194 miles per hour. But here's what matters more than the numbers. The Urus SE can drive up to 60 kilometers in pure electric mode, silently. A Lamborghini that makes no sound at all. 5 years ago, that sentence would have been an insult. In 2026, it's proof that the future doesn't require abandoning what makes Lamborghini, Lamborghini. You get silence when you want it, and when you don't, that V8 still screams. Starting around $260,000. Every allocation for the first year was spoken for before most people saw it in person. Number 2. Ferrari Purosangue. Ferrari spent decades saying they would never build an SUV. They watched Lamborghini do it with a Urus, they watched Bentley, Rolls-Royce, Aston Martin, and when Ferrari finally moved, they did something nobody expected. They put a naturally aspirated V12 in it. A 6.5-liter V12, 715 horsepower, no turbochargers, no hybrid assistance, just 12 cylinders breathing freely to nearly 8,000 RPM, 0 to 100 kilometers an hour in 3.3 seconds, top speed over 310 kilometers an hour. And did you know Ferrari refuses to call it an SUV? Internally, it's a 4-door, 4-seat sports car. The name, Purosangue, means thoroughbred in Italian. That's not branding. It's a declaration that this vehicle answers to Ferrari standards, not the SUV's markets. The interior reflects that conviction. Dual cockpit architecture, individual rear seats instead of a bench, and material quality worthy of the prancing horse. The rear passengers get their own digital instrument cluster. It feels less like the back of a car and more like a co-pilot station. Starting around $400,000, production is deliberately limited. Ferrari will never let the Purosangue become common, because the moment a Ferrari becomes ordinary, it stops being a Ferrari. And for the record, as fast as the Purosangue is, we've got something coming that makes every car on this list look stationary. Dedicated track machines, no road registration. That's a different world. Number 1. Rolls-Royce Cullinan Black Badge. There's a reason I said at the start that the number 1 spot might be the most complete luxury vehicle ever built, because the Rolls-Royce Cullinan Black Badge doesn't compete in any single category. It simply occupies a space that nothing else in this list, or any list, can reach. The Black Badge is Rolls-Royce's answer to a question their younger buyers were asking: what if a Cullinan had an edge? A 6.75-liter twin-turbo V12, producing 591 horsepower. The Spirit of Ecstasy finished in high-gloss black, darkened chrome, a technical carbon fiber interior option that weighs less and looks like nothing else in the catalog. It takes the Cullinan's imperious presence and adds something the standard version never had: attitude. But what earns the top spot isn't the spec sheet, it's the experience. The doors close with the weight of a bank vault. The cabin is so silent that engineers specifically added subtle tones so passengers wouldn't feel disoriented by the quiet. The Starlight headliner, 1,344 fiber optic lights hand-woven into the roof, replicates the night sky from any date or location you choose. Your wedding night, the night you closed the deal that changed everything, Rolls-Royce will build it into the ceiling. The rear isn't a back seat, it's a viewing suite. Reclining seats, champagne coolers, fold-out cocktail tables, and an optional tailgate configuration that deploys 2 leather chairs for outdoor events. This is a car that assumes you're not just traveling, you're hosting. Starting at roughly $400,000. With bespoke commissioning through Rolls-Royce's private office, the final number frequently exceeds $6,000. But for the people who buy a Cullinan Black Badge, the price was never the question. The question was whether anything else could come close. In 2026, the answer is still no. 10 SUVs. 10 different arguments for what luxury and dominance look like in 2026. From a Maserati that brings supercar DNA to your daily commute, to a Rolls-Royce that turns every journey into an event. I already know this list is going to start a debate. Some of you think the Purosangue should be number 1 because of that V12. Some of you think the Urus SE is the future. Tell me which one you'd actually put in your garage, not which one sounds best on paper. The real choice. Comments. If you're asking me, the Cullinan Black Badge. Not because it's the fastest or the most expensive, because it's the only vehicle here where the engineering exists entirely in service of how it makes you feel. Every other SUV is trying to prove something. The Cullinan already has. And speaking of proof, next time we're leaving the road entirely. The fastest machines ever to lap a circuit. No compromises, no speed limits, pure engineered violence and 4 wheels. You're going to want to see that. Subscribe if you haven't already. I'll see you in the next one.